The desert was not silent. It whispered. The wind moved the sand in waves. The waves sounded like voices. The voices spoke in a language older than Egypt, older than memory. The sand was warm. The air was dry. The sun was high. The shadows were short. Alexander stood at the edge of the oasis. His boots were full of sand. His throat was dry. His eyes burned. He had ridden for 8 days, across 200 miles of nothing. No water, no shade, no roads. Only the sun. Only the sand. Only the whispers. His cloak was heavy. His armor was hot. His horse was tired. The horse's head hung low. Its breathing was slow. Its legs were shaking. The men behind him were silent. They had no strength left for words. The priests had warned him of death. The generals had called him a fool. The guides had begged him to turn back. He did not listen. He never listened. The oasis of Siwa was a green island in a sea of sand. The palm trees swayed in the wind. The water was clear and cold. The grass was soft beneath his feet. The temple stood on a hill. The stone was yellow. The doorway was dark. The priests of Amun had been speaking to the gods for 3,000 years. They had spoken to the pharaohs of Egypt. They had spoken to the kings of Nubia. They had spoken to the generals of Persia. Alexander was 24 years old. He had already conquered Greece, Egypt, Persia. He was the most powerful man in the world, but he wanted more. He wanted to know his destiny. He wanted to know if he was a god. His mother had told him the secret. She had whispered it in his ear when he was a child. Your father is not Philip. Your father is a god. Zeus came to me in the form of a serpent. You are the son of the thunder. Alexander believed her. He had always believed her. He needed proof. The oracle could give him proof. The priests stood at the entrance of the temple. Their heads were shaved. Their robes were white. Their feet were bare. Their eyes were dark. They did not speak. One of them raised his hand. He pointed to the doorway. Alexander walked forward. The sand was hot beneath his boots. The sun was bright on his face. The shadows of the palm trees fell across his path. He reached the doorway. The stone was cool. The air inside was dark. The smell of incense drifted out, old, thick, heavy. He stepped inside. The darkness swallowed him. The whisper followed him. The temple was dark. The air was cold. The stone floor was smooth beneath his boots. The torchlight flickered. The flames were small. The shadows were large. The shadows danced on the walls. The walls were covered with hieroglyphs. The carvings showed gods and pharaohs and priests. The carvings had been there for thousands of years. The paint had faded. The stone had worn. But the shapes were still visible. A priest walked ahead of him. The priest's feet were bare. His steps made no sound. Another priest walked behind him. The priest's robes were white. They glowed in the torchlight. The corridor was long. The ceiling was low. The air was thick with incense. Alexander's heart was loud. His hands were cold. His mouth was dry. He had not been afraid since he was a child. He had crossed rivers of blood. He had climbed walls of bodies. He had stared into the eyes of dying men. But this was different. This was not a battle. This was a temple. This was a place where God spoke. This was a place where men listened. The corridor opened into a chamber. The chamber was round. The ceiling was high. The walls were covered with gold. The gold was thin. The gold was old. The gold was fading, but it still glowed. The torchlight caught the edges. The edges shimmered. In the center of the chamber stood a stone door. The door was sealed. The seal was made of wax. The wax was red. The red was dark. The dark was old. The priests stopped. They stood on either side of the door. They did not speak. They did not move. One of them stepped forward. He broke the seal. The wax cracked. The pieces fell to the floor. Another priest pushed the door. The stone groaned. The dust fell. The door opened. The darkness behind the door was complete. No torchlight could enter. No shadow could escape. The priests gestured for Alexander to enter. He walked toward the door. His boots echoed on the stone. His breath was shallow. His heart was loud. He stopped at the threshold. The darkness was cold. The darkness was old. The darkness was patient. He stepped inside. The door closed behind him. The darkness swallowed him. The room was small. The walls were bare. The floor was stone. The ceiling was low. There was no window, no torch, no lamp, only darkness, only silence, only the sound of his own breathing. He stood in the center of the room. He did not move. He did not speak. He waited. He did not know how long he waited. The darkness had no time. The silence had no measure. Then a voice spoke. The voice was old. The voice was soft. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Alexander, son of Philip, you have come to ask if you are a god. The voice was not Egyptian. It was not Greek. It was a language older than both. But he understood it. He could not speak. His throat was closed. His tongue was dry. The voice spoke again. You have conquered Greece. You have conquered Egypt. You have conquered Persia. You stand at the edge of the world. But the world is not yours. The world belongs to the gods. He wanted to speak. He wanted to ask. He wanted to know. The voice spoke a third time. You are not a god. You are a man. You will die. Your empire will fall. Your body will be lost. Your name will fade. He wanted to weep. He wanted to scream. He wanted to run. But he did not move. He could not move. The voice was silent for a long time. Then it spoke again. But you will not be forgotten. Not completely. Your name will live in the mouths of poets. Your story will be told in the halls of kings. Your whisper will be heard in the silence of the desert. The voice faded. The silence returned. The door opened. The torchlight flooded the room. The priests were waiting. Alexander walked out. His face was changed. His eyes were brighter. His step was lighter. He did not speak of what he had heard. He never spoke of it. Not to his generals, not to his friends, not to his mother. He told the world that the priest had called him the Son of God. He told the world that the oracle had confirmed his divinity. He told the world that he was immortal. He lied. He was not a god. He was a man. He knew it. He had always known it. But the world did not need to know. The world needed a hero. The world needed a legend. The world needed a god. Alexander gave the world what it wanted. He gave the world himself. The year was 331 BC. The place was the Siwa oasis, 300 miles west of the Nile. The oasis had been sacred for thousands of years. The Greeks called it the Oasis of Amun. The Egyptians called it the House of the Sunday. The water came from deep underground. The spring never stopped. The palm trees never died. The grass never turned brown. The air was dry. The sun was hot. The sand was soft. The shadows were sharp. The priests lived in caves cut into the rock. The caves were cool. The caves were dark. The walls were covered with paintings. The paintings showed gods and pharaohs and priests. The gods had the heads of animals. The pharaohs had the bodies of men. The priests had their hands raised in prayer. The paint had not faded. The colors were still bright. The red was red. The blue was blue. The gold was gold. The temple was carved from a single stone. The stone was yellow. The yellow was soft. The soft was worn. The walls were covered with hieroglyphs. The hieroglyphs were written in a language that only the priests could read. The language was old. The language was secret. The language was the language of the gods. Alexander had conquered Egypt the year before. He had marched into Memphis. The streets were lined with people. The people were cheering. The people were weeping. The people were praying. He had been crowned pharaoh in the temple of Ptah. The crown was heavy. The crown was gold. The crown was old. The crown had been worn by the pharaohs of the 18th dynasty, the dynasty of Tutankhamun, the dynasty of Hatshepsut, the dynasty of Thutmose. He had sacrificed to the Egyptian gods. The priests had slaughtered a bull. The blood was red. The blood was warm. The blood was offered to Amun. He had founded the city of Alexandria. The city was built on the coast. The harbor was deep. The walls were high. The streets were straight. The Egyptians had welcomed him. They saw him as a liberator. The Persians had occupied Egypt for 2 centuries. The Egyptians hated the Persians. They loved the young king from Macedon. The smell of the Nile was still on his clothes. The mud of the delta was still on his boots. The voices of the priests of Memphis were still in his ears. But he was not satisfied. A crown was not enough. A throne was not enough. An empire was not enough. He wanted to know his destiny. The journey to Siwa was dangerous. The desert was vast. The heat was deadly. The guides warned him. The priests warned him. His own generals begged him not to go. He went anyway. On the first day, the road was easy. The ground was flat. The sun was warm. The men sang songs. The men told stories. The men laughed. On the second day, the road became hard. The sand was deep. The wind was strong. The song stopped. The stories stopped. The laughter stopped. On the third day, the road disappeared. The guides could not find the path. The markers had been buried by the wind. The men looked at each other. The men looked at the sky. The men looked at Alexander. On the fourth day, the water ran low. The skins were empty. The wells were dry. The men's tongues were thick. Their lips were cracked. Their eyes were red. On the fifth day, the men began to panic. They shouted at the guides. They cursed the priests. They blamed Alexander. Alexander did not panic. He trusted the gods. He trusted his destiny. He trusted the voice that whispered in his ear. He said, "We will reach the oasis. The gods have promised me. I have seen it in a dream." The men did not believe him, but they followed him. They had nowhere else to go. On the sixth day, a storm came. The wind howled. The sand flew. The men covered their faces. They could not see. They could not breathe. They could not move. Alexander stood in the storm. His cloak was torn. His face was cut. His eyes were closed. He did not move. He did not hide. He waited. The storm lasted for hours. Then it stopped. The wind died. The sand settled. The sky cleared. There it was. The oasis. Siwa. The green palms. The clear water. The stone temple. The men fell to their knees. They wept. They drank. They prayed. The water was cold. The water was sweet. The water was life. The men drank until their bellies were full. Then they drank again. Alexander did not drink. He walked to the temple. The temple stood on a hill. The hill was steep. The steps were worn. The stone was warm. The priests met him at the top of the steps. Their heads were shaved. Their robes were white. Their feet were bare. Their eyes were dark. They did not speak. They did not bow. They did not smile. They led him inside. The temple was dark. The air was cool. The smell was incense, old, thick, heavy. The walls were covered with hieroglyphs. The carvings showed gods and pharaohs and priests. The carvings had been there for thousands of years. The paint had faded. The stone had worn. But the shapes were still visible. The priests stopped before a stone door. The door was sealed. The seal was made of wax. The wax was red. The red was dark. The dark was old. One of the priests broke the seal. Another priest pushed the door. The stone groaned. The dust fell. The door opened. The priests gestured for Alexander to enter. He walked inside, alone. The door closed behind him. The darkness swallowed him. The room was small. The walls were bare. The floor was stone. The ceiling was low. There was no window, no torch, no lamp. Only darkness. Only silence. Only the sound of his own breathing. He waited. He did not know how long. Then a voice spoke. The voice was old. The voice was soft. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Alexander, son of Philip, you have come to ask if you are a god. He could not speak. His throat was closed. His tongue was dry. The voice spoke again. Your mother told you that Zeus was your father. Your mother told you that you were born of a god. Your mother told you that you were destined for greatness. He wanted to answer. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to say no. He did not know. The voice spoke a third time. Your mother was not lying. Your father was a god, but the god was not Zeus. The god was not Amun. The god was not any god you have heard of. The voice paused. Your father was the god of war, the god of blood, the god of death. Your father was the god who feeds on the souls of warriors. Alexander felt cold. His hands were shaking. His heart was frozen. You were born to conquer. You were born to kill. You were born to die young. Your blood will water the earth. Your bones will feed the wolves. Your name will be a curse. The voice faded. The silence returned. Then the voice spoke again. Softer now, slower now, but you can choose. You can choose to be a man. You can choose to be a husband. You can choose to be a father. You can choose to grow old. You can choose to die in your bed. The voice paused. The choice is yours. The gods do not choose for you. The gods only watch. The voice was silent. Alexander stood in the darkness. He did not move. He did not speak. He thought of his mother, her face, her voice, her hands. He thought of his father, his scarred face, his missing eye, his heavy hand. He thought of the men who had followed him across the world, the men who had died, the men who were still alive, the men who were waiting. He thought of the cities he had burned, the people he had killed, the tears he had caused. He thought of the future, the battles, the blood, the death. He thought of the alternative, a quiet life, a wife, a child, a garden, a grave. He knew he could not choose the quiet life. The quiet life was not in him. He was his father's son. He was the son of the god of war. He was the son of blood and death. He opened his mouth. He spoke. I will conquer. I will kill. I will die young. My blood will water the earth. My bones will feed the wolves. My name will be remembered. The voice did not answer. The door opened. The torchlight flooded the room. The priests were waiting. Alexander walked out. His face was changed. His eyes were brighter. His step was lighter. He did not speak of what he had heard. He never spoke of it. He told the world that the priest had called him the Son of God. He told the world that the oracle had confirmed his divinity. He told the world that he was immortal. He lied. He was not immortal. He was a man. He had chosen to be a man who would conquer, a man who would kill, a man who would die young. He had chosen. The priests watched him leave. Their faces were blank. Their eyes were empty. Their hands were still. They did not know what he had heard. They would never know. The secret was his. 24 years before the oracle, Pella, Macedon, a palace on a hill. The palace walls were white. The columns were tall. The gardens were green. The fountains were clear. The air was cool. The water was fresh. The flowers were blooming. The birds were singing. A boy was born. His hair was golden. His eyes were different colors, one blue, one brown. The priest said this meant he was touched by the gods. His mother said it meant he was the son of Zeus. His father said it meant nothing. He was just a boy. His name was Alexandros, defender of men. The room was warm. The candles were lit. The women were whispering. The midwife was washing her hands. His mother held him. Her arms were tired. Her face was pale. Her eyes were bright. She looked at his face. She looked at his eyes. She smiled. You will be great, she whispered. You will be more than a king. You will be more than a man. You will be a god. Her voice was soft. Her voice was certain. Her voice was a prayer. She was Olympias. She was a princess from Epirus. She was beautiful. She was fierce. She was dangerous. She worshipped Dionysus, the god of wine and ecstasy. She kept snakes as pets. She slept in a room filled with serpents. The snakes were not dangerous. They were her friends. They wrapped around her arms. They coiled on her pillow. They slept beside her at night. The scales were smooth. The eyes were yellow. The tongues were red. The bodies were warm. The Macedonians feared her. They called her a witch. They whispered that she could turn men into pigs. They whispered that she could raise the dead. They whispered that she could speak to the gods. She did not care. She was a princess. She was the wife of the king. She was the mother of the heir. She told Alexander that Zeus was his father. She told him that the god had come to her in the form of a serpent. She told him that he was destined for greatness. He believed her. He was a child. Children believe their mothers. His father was Philip. He was the king of Macedon. He was a warrior, a conqueror, a diplomat. He had united the fractious tribes of Macedon. He had defeated the Greeks. He had built an army that could challenge the Persian Empire. His face was scarred. One eye was gone, a wound from battle. The empty socket was dark. The skin around it was wrinkled. The scar ran from his forehead to his chin. The skin was tight. The flesh was white. The eye that remained was sharp. He was not a gentleman. He was a soldier. He was a king. He was a father. Philip loved Alexander. He also feared him. He saw the ambition in his son's eyes. He saw the hunger. He saw the ruthlessness. He saw himself. When Alexander was 12, he tamed a horse that no one else could ride. The horse was called Bucephalus. He was wild. He was fierce. He was untamable. His coat was black. His mane was dark. His eyes were wild. His hooves were strong. His teeth were sharp. The trainers had tried to mount him. He threw them off. He bit them. He kicked them. He broke their bones. He was dangerous. The men said the horse was a demon. The men said the horse could not be ridden. The men said the horse should be killed. Alexander watched. He did not speak. He did not move. He watched. He saw that the horse was afraid of his own shadow. The shadow moved when the horse moved. The horse did not understand. The horse was terrified. Alexander walked toward the horse. The men shouted at him to stop. He did not stop. He spoke to the horse. Soft words, gentle words. The horse stopped moving. The horse stopped shaking. The horse listened. Alexander turned the horse toward the sun. The horse could not see his shadow. He calmed down. Alexander mounted him. The horse did not fight. The horse did not fear. The horse obeyed. Alexander rode him around the arena. The horse's hooves pounded the sand. The horse's mane flew in the wind. The horse's eyes were calm. Philip watched from his throne. His eye was wet. His hand was shaking. He wept. The king of Macedon wept. The soldiers stared. The generals were silent. Philip said, "You will have to find another kingdom. Macedon is too small for you." The men cheered. The soldiers shouted. The generals clapped. Alexander dismounted. He patted the horse's neck. He whispered in the horse's ear. The horse nuzzled his hand. The horse's breath was warm. The horse's eyes were soft. Alexander loved Bucephalus. Bucephalus loved Alexander. They would cross the world together. They would fight 100 battles. They would never be separated. When Alexander was 16, his father left him in charge of Macedon. Philip marched south to fight the Byzantines. Alexander watched the throne. He waited. He planned. He dreamed. The throne was large. The throne was heavy. The throne was made of gold and ivory. The arms were carved with lions. The back was carved with eagles. Alexander sat on the throne. His feet did not touch the floor. His hands did not reach the armrests. He looked like a bird in a cage. He did not feel like a bird. He felt like a lion. He felt like an eagle. He felt like a king. The generals came to him with questions. The priests came to him with prayers. The people came to him with problems. He answered them all. He solved them all. He ruled them all. His mother watched from the shadows. She smiled. She knew. She had always known. When Alexander was 18, he led the cavalry charge at Cheronea. The battle was fierce. The Greeks were strong. The Thebans were brave. The Athenians were determined. Alexander charged at the head of the cavalry. His sword was high. His shield was steady. His horse was fast. He broke through the Greek lines. He killed the Theban sacred band, the best soldiers in Greece, the lovers who fought together, the warriors who died together. They did not break. They did not run. They died where they stood. The Greeks surrendered. The war was over. Alexander had won his first battle. He was not a boy anymore. He was a man. Philip embraced him. Philip kissed his cheek. Philip called him a hero. Alexander did not smile. He did not weep. He nodded. He walked away. He was already thinking of the next battle, the next conquest, the next world. When Alexander was 20, his father was assassinated, murdered by one of his own guards. The assassin was a young man named Pausanias. He was angry. He had been insulted. He wanted revenge. He stabbed Philip in the chest. The blade went deep. The blood was red. The king fell. Pausanias ran. The guards chased him. They caught him. They killed him before he could speak. No one knows who ordered the murder. Some say the Persians. Some say the Greeks. Some say Olympias. Some say Alexander. Alexander did not weep. He acted. He killed every rival, every uncle, every cousin, every man who might claim the throne. He left no one alive. The bodies were buried. The blood was washed. The throne was his. Then he turned to Greece. The Greeks had heard that Philip was dead. They thought Alexander would be weak. They rebelled. Alexander marched south. His army was fast. His army was hungry. His army was angry. He reached Thebes. The Thebans refused to surrender. They thought their walls would protect them. They were wrong. Alexander burned Thebes to the ground. The fire was bright. The smoke was black. The walls crumbled. The temples fell. He sold the people into slavery. The chains were heavy. The children were crying. The women were weeping. The men were silent. He left the city in ruins, a warning to anyone who doubted him. The Greeks did not doubt him again. Then he crossed the Hellespont, into Asia, into Persia, into the empire of the King of Kings. The sea was rough. The waves were high. The wind was strong. The men were sick. Alexander stood at the bow of the ship. His cloak was wet. His hair was wet. His face was wet. He threw a spear into the water. The spear landed on the Asian shore. He said, "I accept Asia as a gift from the gods." He waded to the shore. His boots were wet. His feet were cold. His heart was warm. He had 35,000 men. The Persians had millions. It did not matter. He fought at Granicus. The river was red. The bodies were piled high. He fought at Issus. The mountains were steep. The pass was narrow. He fought at Gaugamela. The plain was flat. The dust was thick. The sun was bright. 3 battles, 3 victories. The Persian Empire fell. He was 25 years old. He ruled from the Adriatic to the Indus, from the deserts of Egypt to the mountains of Afghanistan. No one had ever held so much land. No one had ever moved so fast. He stopped at Siwa. He needed to know. He needed to hear. He needed to believe. The priest spoke. The voice was old. The voice was soft. The voice told him the truth. He walked out of the temple. His face was changed. His eyes were brighter. His step was lighter. He never spoke of what he heard, but he never forgot. He was a man. He had chosen to be a man who would conquer, a man who would kill, a man who would die young. He had chosen. The temple at Siwa still stands. The oasis is still green. The priests are gone. The inscriptions are faded. The stone is yellow. The edges are worn. The letters are faint. But the name is still there. Alexander's name, carved in stone, carved in memory. The water of the oasis is still clear. The spring never stops. The palm trees never die. The grass never turns brown. The birds come at dawn. They drink from the water. They sing in the trees. Their songs are old. Their songs are the same songs the priests heard 3,000 years ago. The air is dry. The sun is hot. The sand is soft. The shadows are sharp. The Egyptians believed that Amun was the hidden one, the god who could not be seen, the god who was present in all things. The pharaohs were his sons. They ruled by divine right. They lived as men. They died as gods. Alexander understood this. He used the oracle to legitimize his rule. The Egyptians accepted him as pharaoh. The Greeks accepted him as a hero. The Persians accepted him as the king of kings. But the oracle also changed him. He became more arrogant, more distant, more cruel. He began to dress in Persian clothes. The robes were silk. The colors were bright. The gold was heavy. The jewels were many. He wore a diadem, a white ribbon tied around his head. The ribbon was the symbol of the Persian king. The Greeks saw it as a symbol of tyranny. He began to demand proskynesis, the ritual of bowing. The Persians bowed to their king. They touched their foreheads to the ground. They worshipped him as a god. The Greeks did not bow. They called it worship. They called it blasphemy. They refused. One of his friends refused. His name was Callisthenes. He was a historian. He was a philosopher. He was proud. He said, "I will not bow. I am a Greek. Greeks bow only to the gods." Alexander had him executed. The chains were heavy. The cell was dark. The death was slow. Another friend refused. His name was Clytus. He had saved Alexander's life in battle. He had cut off the arm of a Persian soldier who was about to kill the king. Clytus drank too much wine at a party. He spoke too freely. He said, "You are not a god. You owe your victories to your father, Philip. You owe your life to me." Alexander killed him with a spear in front of everyone. The blood was red. The body was still. The room was silent. The guests stared. The guards did not move. Alexander stood over the body. His hands were shaking. His face was white. He whispered, "I have killed my friend." Then he left. He did not speak for 3 days. He was no longer the young king who had crossed the Hellespont. He was a god. Gods do not tolerate disobedience. Gods do not have friends. Gods are alone. The water of the oasis is still clear. The palm trees still sway in the wind. The sand still shifts. The sun rises over the oasis. The light is golden. The shadows are long. The birds begin to sing. The sound of the water is soft. The sound of the wind is gentle. The sound of the palm trees is a whisper. The whisper is old. The whisper is patient. The whisper is waiting for someone to listen. Somewhere beneath the stones, the priests carved a name, not Alexander's, a name older than Egypt, a name older than the pyramids, a name that meant the one who listens. The name is worn. The letters are faint. The stone is cracked, but the name is still there, waiting. The priests who carved it are dead. The priests who served it are dead. The priests who guarded it are dead. But the name is not dead. The name is waiting. The name is listening. Alexander did not listen. He heard the voice in the darkness. He heard the truth, but he did not listen. He chose his own path. He could have chosen differently. He could have gone home. He could have married. He could have had children. He could have grown old. He could have died in his bed. He chose to conquer. He chose to kill. He chose to die young. The voice did not force him. The gods did not force him. He chose. That is the secret of the oracle. Not that Alexander was a god. Not that Alexander was a man. That Alexander had a choice, and he chose. The oasis is still there. The temple is still there. The stone door is still there. The door is closed. The seal is gone. The room is empty. But the voice is still there, waiting. The desert is silent now. The wind has stopped. The sand is still. The sun has set. The sky is dark. The stars are out. The stars are bright. The stars are the same stars that Alexander saw on the night before the oracle. The same stars, the same sky, the same silence. He stood on the sand. He looked at the sky. He wondered. His tent was behind him. The canvas was thin. The poles were weak. The ropes were loose. The wind could have torn it down. His men were sleeping. Their breathing was slow. Their bodies were still. Their dreams were home. He did not sleep. He could not sleep. His mind was too full. His heart was too loud. His thoughts were too many. He thought of his mother. Her face was pale. Her eyes were bright. Her voice was a whisper. Your father is Zeus. You are the son of thunder. He thought of his father. His face was scarred. His eye was gone. His hand was heavy. His voice was a command. Macedon is too small for you. He thought of Bucephalus, the black horse, the wild eyes, the warm breath, the nuzzling nose. He thought of the men who had followed him, the men who had died, the men who were still alive, the men who were waiting. He thought of the cities he had burned, the people he had killed, the tears he had caused. He thought of the temple, the darkness, the silence, the voice. You are not a god. You are a man. You will die. Your empire will fall. Your body will be lost. Your name will fade. He thought of the choice he had made, the choice he could not take back. He thought of the other life, the quiet life, the wife, the child, the garden, the grave. He could not see that life. He could not imagine it. He could not want it. The quiet life was not in him. The quiet life was not for him. He was his father's son. He was the son of the god of war. He was the son of blood and death. He would conquer. He would kill. He would die young. His blood would water the earth. His bones would feed the wolves. His name would be remembered. He had chosen. The stars were bright. The silence was deep. The desert was empty. He walked back to his tent. He lay down on his mat. He closed his eyes. He did not pray. He did not weep. He did not dream. He slept. The years passed. Alexander conquered more lands. He fought more battles. He killed more men. He marched to the edge of the world. He saw the ocean at the end of India. He wept because there were no more worlds to conquer. He turned back. His men were tired. His men were homesick. His men wanted to see their wives and children. He led them back through the desert. The desert was hot. The desert was dry. The desert was cruel. Many men died. They fell in the sand. They were buried in the sand. They were forgotten in the sand. Alexander reached Babylon. The city was old. The walls were high. The gardens were green. The rivers were wide. He planned new conquests. Arabia, Carthage, Rome. He would conquer the world. He would unite all peoples under his rule. He would create a new race, a race of Greeks and Persians and Egyptians and Indians, a race that would worship him as a god. He died before he could begin. The fever came. The pain was sharp. The pain was hot. The pain was cruel. He lay on his bed. The bed was wooden. The sheets were linen. The room was dark. His generals stood around him. They watched him die. They waited for him to speak. He opened his mouth. He tried to speak. His throat was dry. His tongue was thick. His voice was weak. He whispered to the strongest. The generals looked at each other. They did not know what he meant. They did not know who he meant. He closed his eyes. He did not open them again. He was 32 years old. His body was embalmed. The spices were sweet. The linen was white. The gold was bright. His tomb was hidden. The location was a secret. The secret was lost. His empire fell apart. His generals fought each other. They carved his kingdom into pieces. They fought for 40 years. Thousands died. Cities burned. Alexander's son was murdered. His mother was murdered. His wife was murdered. His line was erased. His family was forgotten. But his name was not forgotten. His story was not forgotten. His whisper was not forgotten. The oasis is still there. The temple is still there. The stone door is still there. The voice is still there, waiting. He is not in the temple. He is not in the desert. He is not in the palace at Babylon. He is in a field. The grass is green. The sky is blue. The sun is warm. He is young again. His hands are clean. His eyes are clear. His heart is light. His horse is beside him. Bucephalus, black coat, dark mane, wild eyes, but calm now, waiting. His mother is walking toward him. Her hair is dark. Her eyes are bright. Her hands are soft. Alexander, she says. Mother, he says. She holds him. She does not let go. Did I do well? He asks. You did everything, she says. You did more than anyone could have asked. He weeps. He has not wept since he was a child. The field is quiet, the grass is soft, the sun is warm, the sky is blue. His father is there, Philip, his scarred face, his missing eye, his heavy hand. Son, he says. Father, Alexander says. Philip places his hand on Alexander's shoulder. The hand is heavy. The hand is warm. The hand is kind. You were a better king than me, Philip says. You were a better warrior. You were a better man. Alexander weeps again. His men are there, the ones who died, the ones who followed him across the world. They are standing in the field. They are smiling. They are waving. His generals are there, the ones who betrayed him, the ones who fought over his empire. They are kneeling. They are weeping. They are asking for forgiveness. Alexander looks at them. He does not speak. He does not need to speak. He forgives them. The field is quiet. The grass is soft. The sun is warm. The sky is blue. The temple at Siwa is still there. The stones are yellow. The doorway is dark. The priests are dust. But the whisper is still there. The whisper that followed Alexander into the temple. The whisper that followed him out. The whisper that followed him across the world. The whisper is for you. You are not a god. You are not dust. You are not a king. You are not a slave. You are a story that will be told, a story that will be heard, a story that will be remembered. The whisper says, listen. The desert is silent. The temple is dark. The stars are bright. Good night.